Good morning, everyone. My name is Ajish Babu, and welcome back to our video series Game Development Using Unity. So, in the some of the previous videos, we were seeing some of the roles and responsibilities of the different departments in the game development studio. And we saw what is the responsibilities and roles of producer and this game designer, graphic designer, and programmer. So now let us see what is the roles and responsibilities of the 3D animator or 3D modelers. So before that, we will discuss about what is the difference between 2D games and 3D games. So we can divide this 2D, we can divide the games that into two types, mainly two types, according to the assets that we use to develop these games. So these are if the game is using 2D assets, then we can call that as a 2D game, and if it is using 3D assets, then we can say that as a 3D game. Okay, so 2D game is that is when you see the simple casual games, that they are mostly 2D games, and if you are playing a triple A war games, then that are mostly 3D games. Three-dimensional models are used in these games. In 2D games, there we have only two dimensions, that is the X and Y. So we can say only the height, length or breadth is there, and there are only two dimensions. But in 3D games, there are three dimensions, that is X, Y and Z. So we have the depth also in that 3D games. So 2D games are, I can say they are very simple games, and we can move this character in only in four direction, that is left, right and up and down, and we can make them jump also using the space key. So there are only 4 to 5 keys are used in 2D games, and they are not very complicated. But in 3D games, you can see that there could be a lot of controls could be there, like the arrows for the movement, then the camera movement, then swimming, jumping. So there are a lot of different types of actions are there in the 3D games. So 3D games, the controls could be a little bit more complex and complicated. And in 2D games, that where the very simple graphics are used, and they are mostly created using the Photoshop and Illustrator. So we can use the 2D development tools to create the 2D assets, and they can be used in 2D games. But in 3D games, we require the realistic environment and the realistic characters. So these environments and characters are created using the 3D development tools, like the 3ds Max or Maya or Blender. So using these softwares, we create the 3D assets, and we use that in the 3D games. So you can say that it is 2D is comparatively easier to create. The assets are easier to create than the 3D games. So 3D games, we know that if we are creating an environment, that should be very realistic, just like in the real world, how you see an environment. of a ground or the mountains. All these assets, if you require and you want to create that in a 3D environment, it could be very complex process, and it may take a lot of effort and time. But in 2D, you know that we mainly use 2D images or drawings to create the environment, so it is not that complex. So the type of game you are going to create, that is 2D game or 3D game, that depend mainly on the size of the team, your gaming team. So if it is you are a small studio, okay, you are a small studio, and you have only a few people who are working on the entire game, then it is always better to create your game in a 2D environment, because if you are creating your game in a 2D environment, that can be easier to develop the assets, and it is easier to implement that assets in a game and create a game, and you can finish that game in a couple of months. Okay, so normally it won't take more than that. So you can create a game in 2 or 3 months. Okay, so that is not that very complicated. But if you are creating triple A games, okay, like a war game, okay, so or a highly complicated racing game, then the people who buy those games and play those games, they expect a very realistic environment or realistic experience with those games. So it is always better to create such games in a 3D environment. Okay, when you create a game using a 3D environment, then it is you can walk and you can run, or you can jump, you can swim. Lot of effects you can give in those games, and the environment in which you are creating that game, that could be very realistic. Okay, so when you create a game in 3D, it is going to be very realistic, and the people or the players will have that immersive experience while playing those games. But while the production of 3D games, that is actually very complex process. That is, you need to create all these 3D assets, then texturing, then rendering all these assets, and all these lighting effects we have to give. So 3D or environments and characters are created just like in a real way. Okay, so it should give that real life experience to the players. Then only they will enjoy that game. They should get that immersive experience. So there are a lot of complicated procedures out there while developing the 3D game. So it is always depends on what is the size of your studio, what is the capacity you have as a gaming company. So these things affect the decision of whether you want to make a 2D game or a 3D game. And so when you want to create a 2D game or a 3D game, there are different game engines that we use for developing these games. So if you want to create a small or a casual 2D game, you can use the 2D game engines like a Game Maker, Cocos 2D, or Construct. So you can use any of these game engine game engines to create a 2D game. So main advantage of using these engines are that they if even if you don't have any programmer also in your team, then also you can use the you can create a game in a graphical way. Okay, so you can use this graphics tools to create the game. And if you want to create a 3D game, then you can use the engines like this Unity, Unreal, or CryEngine. So these are kind of game engines you can use for 3D games. Okay, so the game engines that I mentioned for the 2D game development, so they are very easy to understand. They are not very complicated game engines, so anybody can easily learn that game engines and start developing the games. Okay, so like I mentioned, even if you don't have any developer in your team, or you are a very small team of designers, then also you can develop you can work with these engines using you can develop the games using the blueprints. Okay, the blueprints is a graphical way of creating the game. Okay, so you don't have to use the complicated programming languages like C++ or C# to develop these games. But if you are creating a 3D game, then we need to use these programming languages to make that production of the game easier to develop. Because if you are creating a very big 3D game, okay, very complicated or complex 3D game, and if you are using blueprints in Unreal or Unity, it can be very complex when you continue developing that. After some stage, it is going to be very difficult and to manage all these blueprints. So in those cases, if you are creating a very complex and advanced level games, it is always better to use the programming languages like C++ or C#. Depends on which game engine you are going to use. So you can use these game engines to develop the 3D games. Okay, so that is the game engines you can use to create 2D and 3D. And it is not like that you cannot create 2D games using a game engine like Unity. They have a very good system of 2D game development also in Unity. But what I am saying is that if you are creating a small platformer game, then you don't have to use the complicated game engine like or advanced level engines like a Unity. You can easily create a platformer game using the specialized 2D game engines. Okay, like Game Maker or Cocos 2D. So you can develop those games. So you don't have to go to Unity or Unreal to create the 2D games. So that is the the main difference between the 2D games and the 3D games. In 2D games, we use only two dimensional images, that is that is, we use the images or tiles to develop the 3D game, okay, or the sprite or tiles to develop the 2D game. But in 3D games, we use the 3D models and the 3D animations to create the 3D games. And 2D games, the controls are very easy, and anybody who is a new gamer can start playing the game, and it is not very complicated to understand these 2D games, 2D casual games. But when you want to start playing a 3D game, so it can be a little bit complex, and it may take some time to understand how the gameplay, or how the what is the controls of those games, and how the game is played. So it may take some time to understand. So we can say that as a learner's perspective, or as a beginner gamer's perspective, 2D games are easier to start playing your game than the 3D games. 3D games could be more complex. And we discussed about the game engines, which we can use to create the 2D games as well as the 3D games. So I hope you understood what is the main difference between 2D games and 3D games. Both of them have their advantages and disadvantages. So one of the main advantage of 2D games is that if you are a small studio, then you can create your game very fast and without a limited number of resources, and you can publish them. But if you want to create a 3D game, it can be little bit more complex. And 2D games, for playing the 2D games, you don't need a very high-end devices, okay. But if you want to play the 3D games, then you may need a high-end devices like a gaming laptop or gaming PC or a high-end mobile phones to play that 3D games. But in a 2D games, you don't need that kind of high-end devices. Your normal laptops or normal mobiles can support these games. They are not very complicated or complex to download and play those games. Okay, so these are the main differences between 2D games and 3D games. So I hope you understood this, and in the next videos we will continue from this. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. Thank you so much.